Around the 1980s, many Chinese people began to migrate out of China. During the gold rush in the 1850s, many Chinese people migrated out of China in search for gold. Prospects of a better life, better living conditions, and a better future for their future descendants encouraged them to pack up the little that they had in possession and leave their family, familiarity of home, and into a new environment. These ideas have driven me to ask how the ideas of migration have changed or remained the same over time. This is the story of my parents and how their sacrifice of comfort gave my family and I a better life and enabled me with the endless opportunities and privilege I have today. Through my family story, I explored different ideas about migration. My parents grew up during China's Cultural Revolution, a time when communist ruler Mao Zedong set a revolutionary for his country. Through his ambition, the devastation that followed was recorded as one of history's greatest massacres. My mother and my uncle were sent to work in rural villages in China and enlisted to be part of his army. Death tolls reached 55 million during the Great Leap Forward, an economic and social campaign led by the Communist Party of China, Mao Zedong, and the country soon spiraled into more famine and more hardship. After my parents met and married, my father migrated to New Zealand, where he worked as a farmer for a few years before bringing my mum and my brother over. My mum sacrificed her career as a doctor when migrating to New Zealand, and my family left the comfortable nest of their family and friends to begin a life here for my brother's future and the prospect of building a family outside of the one-child policy. Soon enough, my middle brother was born into the world and my family were given a permanent residence and citizenship in New Zealand. My father continued to work hard for my family, and he provided enough to start our life well in New Zealand by trying out new things and occupations. Shortly after I was born, my family migrated to a little town called Ballarat in Victoria, Australia. Here, my dad continued to work hard to provide for us by trying out new things. He even owned the only Chinese restaurant in town for a little while. I found out more about the history of Ballarat and the migration of Chinese people to this town back in the 1850s during the gold rush. My mum worked as a Chinese tour guide for some of the gold mines and uncovered a lot of history about our people from China who also gave up a lot of their prospects of a better life in a new country. These ideas helped me to understand more about some different ideas about migration and the hardships different time periods of migrating could affect on the individual and their family. My family didn't have to worry about issues such as the white Australian policy. Despite other forms of hardship, it showed that the continuity of hardship and migration were real, but the change in how they looked were different. For the sake of my brother and my education, my family then moved to Sydney, and we have been here ever since. To this day, I am thankful for the way my parents sacrificed so much for my life to be so rich in Australian experiences.